crazy drama on paternity court.
So I'm lying on you?
Yes, you are lying.
I caught the phone call. You told me about the
You're
dude.
lying.
You told me about the dude.
Well, I was in there 2 weeks ago. They're not closed. I was in there.
They gave me my whole permission. How was the doctor?
How?
Joseph? Somebody
Come on, you found an empty building.
Please, knock it off.
What do you think her motive was here?
She didn't believe I was going to go to the doctor appointment.
Mr. Dansby is in court seeking a DNA test to determine if he's the father of Miss Simpson's 3-year-old son, Tanoris. Ms. Simpson countersues for child-rearing expenses totaling $3,361.56. Mr. Dansby claims he waited 3 years due to Miss Simpson's dishonesty and hints at her involvement with another man. Simpson counters that Dansby avoided previous test requests.
I had been trying to get you to do a DNA test, but you chose to run. You didn't want to go to the child support place to do the DNA test.
Is that true, Mr. Dansby?
So,
Damn, that's not true. Miss Simpson, she had been lying. I had doubt about this kid, Tanoris. Is this so much as my son? She have not let me see. I don't even know the kid.
Mr. Dansby explains that he met Miss Simpson through a mutual friend and moved into her home. One school morning, while getting her kids ready and Miss Simpson was in the shower, Dansby answered a call from another man on her phone. Confronting her later, she claimed the man paid her phone bill. She denies Dansby's account.
I just so happened caught the phone call. It was another dude.
I don't recall
was
of that
him.
phone call. I don't
later
recall
on,
of that.
I had talked to Miss Simpson about the strange phone call, and she told me that it was the dude that was paying her phone bill.
No.
So I'm lying on you?
Yes, you are lying.
I caught the phone call. You told me about the dude.
You're lying.
You told me about the dude.
Well,
Mr. Dansby said that when Miss Simpson announced she was pregnant, he had doubts about being the father from the start. Despite his doubts, he acted happy to avoid ruining the moment for Miss Simpson. They were in a relationship and expecting a baby together. Later, Dansby claims Miss Simpson told him over the phone that Tanoris was not his child.
Miss Simpson stated over the phone that Tanoris wasn't none of my child.
when did she say this?
Okay, and that
This
came
was like,
about-
this was in 3 months before he was even born.
It was not 3 months.
I had
Hold
been
on.
calling you the
I
whole-
want to understand this. Get me to this conversation 3 months before the baby was even born where you say she told you the baby wasn't even yours.
Miss Simpson told Mr. Dansby that Tanoris wasn't his child as she didn't want uncertainty regarding his involvement. This led to a psychotic moment where she told that she later confirmed there was another potential father and admitted this to Dansby 3 months into her pregnancy.
Were you sleeping with anyone else?
It was a possibility of someone else. So,
So you admit there was another man?
yes, Your Honor, it was.
At what point did you admit that there was another man?
It was maybe 3 months into the pregnancy.
So that is the conversation he's speaking about when you said this is not even your child?
Yes.
In July 2012, Tanoris was born. Mr. Dansby wasn't at the hospital due to a lack of contact, but another man was present. Miss Simpson admitted that this man was someone she'd previously been involved with before and after Dansby. By October 2014, Dansby met Tanoris for the first time. So, who is the father? Only DNA results can tell.
Mr. Dansby, you are Tanoris' father.
Thank you. Thank you.
I feel
I
good
can't want
about the
up and
results.
say that I'm sorry for all the trouble that I have took you through. So now can we start out to a better start for our child?
Sure.
Yes! Yes!
Judge Lake addresses Miss Poe about her petition to prove Mr. Tarver is the father of her 19-month-old son, Joshawn. Miss Poe asserts that Mr. Tarver has provided no support, while he disputes the claims, suggesting he has some involvement in the child's life. Their disagreements lead to a psychotic moment in paternity court.
He's done nothing for this little boy.
No, Your Honor, he ain't did nothing. He ain't bought him a diaper, he ain't bought him a shoe, he ain't bought him a shirt. He don't do anything for my son.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm dead serious. He don't do anything for him. He call him once in a while, that's it.
Once in a
That's
while.
not being
I don't
a
call
father.
him every day. I don't see him
That's
at
not-
least 3-4 times a
That's
week.
not being a father, Your
I don't call
Honor.
him every day.
No, you don't.
Tarver and Poe dispute the events of a particular night. Mr. Tarver questions why it took Miss Poe 3 hours to arrive when she was only 5 blocks away, and mentions she arrived with 3 men. Miss Poe retorts that another woman was present when she arrived. The two continue to debate about the revelation of Miss Poe's pregnancy.
Mr. Tarver
5 blocks away, it took you 3 hours to pull up with 3 dudes in the car?
Mr. Tarver was when I got there.
5 hours.
The girl was
5 blocks away,
there.
it take 3 hours to pull up with 3 dudes in the car?
There was another girl there.
Okay.
He said he wanted to go to sleep.
There was no
he
other
fell
girl there.
asleep
And did you not
on
leave and
the
go back and
couch.
lay with him?
Yeah, absolutely I left, but I
Okay
did not
then.
go leave and
Okay then.
lay with another man.
All right, I need specific stories. What happened?
Miss Poe acknowledges that she initially told Mr. Tarver she was 2 months pregnant based on information from Planned Parenthood. After getting a urine test, she was informed she was approximately 8 weeks pregnant. A month after that, she had an ultrasound, which indicated she was only 6 weeks pregnant. Mr. Tarver finds the timeline suspicious.
So a month later, you went for an ultrasound,
Yes.
and they told you were only 6 weeks.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did
It don't add up.
Mr. Tarver go to any of the doctor's
No,
appointments
he
with
did
you?
Honor,
not.
one-
He didn't go
there was one-
not
Your
one
Honor,
doctor's appointment
May I
with
speak
me.
now? May I speak?
You didn't let me talk?
All right, go
Okay,
ahead.
both of you, just one at a time.
Mr. Tarver claims that he and Miss Poe went to a supposed doctor's office, but upon arrival, found a sign on the door indicating that they had moved to another address 3 months prior. Despite the sign, Miss Poe insisted that she had been there 2 weeks ago and that they provided her prenatal care.
So when you read that,
then
you...
when I'm like, this not. I'm telling her at the time, this isn't a doctor. That's when she argued me. I was in there 2 weeks ago. They're not closed. I was in there.
They gave me my whole prenatal care. How was the doctor
How?
with me, Joseph? Somebody
Come
referred
on, you
me
found
there.
an empty building.
Please, knock it off.
What do you think her motive was here?
She didn't believe I was
Look
gonna
at
go
me.
to the doctor appointment.
Okay.
Miss Poe accuses Mr. Tarver of advising her not to give the child his last name to avoid child support. In contrast, Mr. Tarver alleges that Miss Poe wanted him to leave quickly because she was speaking with her boyfriend. Amidst the tension, the audience reacts in shock. Mr. Tarver clarifies that he does wish the child is his.
You wanted this child to have your last
I named him.
lying.
I named
He's
him.
lying.
Mr. Tarver, why would you name the child and want him to have your last name if you didn't believe you
That
were
was
the
your child.
biological
I don't
father?
like-
I'm not
Boy.
saying I don't want him to be mine. Why play this role if this not what it is?
Did you have doubts when you were naming him? And
Of course.
you did.
In court, Mr. Tarver brings forward a witness, Rosie Jones, who identifies herself as his fiancée. Miss Jones claims she's heard multiple people claim paternity of Miss Poe's child. Miss Poe retorts, asserting that Miss Jones doesn't know her and that she's also heard many things about Miss Jones from Mr. Tarver. Did the DNA result justify her statement?
It has been determined by this court, Mr. Tarver, you are Rory's father.
Thank you.
Mr. Tarver, you have 2 children now. You don't have any more time to be a young man, you're a man.
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All of you need to continue to better yourselves for the sake of your children.
Miss Johnson believes the defendant's deceased brother, Mr. Damion Ellerson, is the biological father of her son, Damion. She asserts he was her first love and is emotional when remembering him. Miss Fortune, the defendant, is aware of the claim due to her mother and remains skeptical because of Miss Johnson's admitted relationships with other men.
He was my first love. I would do anything for him. We were together all the time. I know in my heart that he is his father.
What was it about him you loved?
Just his energy and his smile. I mean, he was like he didn't have a care in the world. I miss him all the time.
Damion recalls a memory of visiting a man he believed to be his father. This man, who signed his birth certificate, took him to the doctor to check for diseases. Damion, being 12 at the time, found it odd and expressed his concerns to his mother. Miss Johnson later received results that the man wasn't Damion's biological father.
And so, Miss Johnson, you remember that day, and at some point, did you get the results?
Yes, and it came back that he wasn't his.
And then he just stopped talking to me. He just left me, just no dad.
So, Miss Johnson, that's what leads you to now believe Mr. Ellerson is Damion's biological father.
Right.
Damion's mother mentioned her deep love for Mr. Ellerson. Damion, born in 1996, believes he resembles Mr. Ellerson in photos. He met Ellerson's family once at age 12 or 13. Miss Fortune's mother received pictures from Miss Johnson about this meeting.
So, Miss Fortune, what did your mother say to you about this meeting?
She said Miss Johnson, gave her pictures and stuff, and that he might be my brother's son. So in a way, my mom believed it, kinda, but it was just too emotional. As far as me, Kinda, but I don't think so.
In this psychotic moment at paternity court, it was revealed that Miss Johnson named her son Damion after her first love, Mr. Ellison, who was murdered. They were involved until he disappeared. However, Miss Fortune claims Johnson had relationships with two of her cousins, suggesting there's doubt regarding the true paternity.
Miss Johnson, not only that, you slept with two of my cousins.
I slept with one.
Two.
One.
Two.
Oh, so are you testifying that you believe your cousin, not your brother, could be Damion's biological father?
Yes.
Miss Johnson, you did sleep with Mr. Ellison's cousin?
Yes, I did.
Miss Johnson admitted to having unprotected sex with another man who was close to her deceased lover, Mr. Ellison. This man shared that after Mr. Ellison's passing, he and Miss Johnson became emotionally involved, which led to a few intimate encounters. The truth about Damion's paternity is sought in the DNA results.
Mr. Henley, you are not the father. These results pertain to the deceased Damion Ellison. The percentage of relatedness is 0.00%. You are not related.
Mr. White believes his ex-wife, Miss Mock, wrongly had his parental rights for their alleged daughter revoked, allowing another man to adopt her. She's seeking a DNA test to prove he's the girl's biological father and wants $5,000 from Miss Mock for emotional distress.
Mr. White, obviously you feel you've been lied to. Please explain to the court.
In the early 1980s, Julia and I were married, and she birthed me a son 10 months afterwards. A year later, she was pregnant with Tasha, and I ended up going to jail. She was 2 months pregnant when I went to jail. 7 months after I went to jail, she gave birth to Tasha.
Mr. White said that he was incarcerated when Miss Mock was pregnant. After giving birth to Tasha, she named him as the father. While he was in prison, she sought a divorce and tried to terminate his parental rights to their child. Did she do this due to a psychotic breakdown, or did she believe that he was not the father?
I went to the law library and I taught myself law, and acting as my own attorney, I fought it in court and I won. And at that time, it was the opinion of the judge at that time that Julia, or Miss Mock, had intentionally moved with the children on at least 3 different occasions. So all the letters and the cards that I had sent over the course of time to their grandparents' place never got to them.
While married to White, Miss Mock had an affair with another man. After returning from the grocery store one day, she found Mr. White holding their son, prompting the other man to leave. Due to their marriage, she listed Mr. White as Tasha's father on the birth certificate, even though she believed the other man could be the biological father.
Because you were married to Mr. White, you put his name on the birth certificate.
Yes, because the other gentleman walked out of my life too.
Who did you actually think was your father?
I believed my adopted father was my father until I heard my grandmother on the phone, and she stated that there was another gentleman.
Tasha discovered Mr. White's last name on her birth certificate while looking through a trunk with her mother. When questioned, her mother didn't deny Mr. White being her father, but emphasized that Tasha was a Mock now. Miss Mock recalls stopping jail visitations and her new husband expressing a desire to adopt the child.
How could she be adopted if you hadn't relinquished your right?
That's one of my biggest arguments, Your Honor. Illegally allowed Tasha to be adopted. These people have accosted me 30 years of being able to experience with my daughter growing up. They've denied her the right to know her natural father. This is a God-given right to everybody.
Miss Mock claims she wanted to protect her children, hinting that part of her motivation was doubt over Mr. White being Tasha's father. Another man was able to adopt Tasha without Mr. White abandoning his legal rights because a judge approved it. Tasha sought the truth after being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at age 26.
I put a lot of thought into it. I was blind and I couldn't walk, so I had nothing but time to sit and think about it. And then when I had turned 28, I got my vision back, and 29, I reached out to Mr. White on Facebook.
You did?
I did.
August 23rd.
Mr. White encountered Tasha for the first time at his son's funeral, where she displayed anger toward him due to her beliefs about his character. Tasha requested him to leave the funeral, associating him with negative impressions she had been told about. Later, Tasha shared her reservations about reaching out, fearing he'd be angry. So, what did the DNA reveal?
Mr. White, you are not the father. Are you okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. White, are you all right?
Yes, Your Honor, I will be.
You say that you will help her find her biological father if she asks for that help. And I hope you live up to that, Mr. White.
Your Honor,
Yes, you may, sweetie.
you messed my life up. You know that now. Because,
Take your time.
I mean, I can't teach my son how to be a man. So,
I will.
This story begins with 3 kids, 2 moms, and 1 day. The 2 sons, Victor and Maurice, share the same mom. The mom told them Victor Medley is their father. He even gave Victor Jr. the same name as him. However, when these 2 brothers connected with Victor Sr., he claimed not to know them.
Mr. Heron and Mr. Medley, you are here to prove to Mr. Medley Sr. that you are indeed his son.
Yes, Your
And
Honor.
say results of today's DNA test will force him to stop denying you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Victor Medley Sr. started by doubting the paternity of all 3 of these kids, which was too much to take for both plaintiffs, as this had affected their childhood. Which brought us to the relationship timeline. Mr. Medley told the court that after hitting it off with their mom and having a committed relationship with her, they heard rumors that she was cheating.
How difficult your life has been without having a father.
It affected me in life. Want to know why he wasn't in my life? Why would you give me your full name as a junior? Why would you sign my birth certificate? If you deny me as your child, it hurts me like all get out.
The alleged father further disclosed that when the son's mom got pregnant, he talked to his pastor and told him to marry her, so he did. However, at that time, rumors of her cheating increased. He even went to audition for a band where one of the band members claimed to have slept with his wife, not knowing she was married.
You claim you went to your pastor once you learned she was pregnant.
Yes.
And what did your pastor tell you?
Do the right thing, make her an honorable woman.
Basically, you married her even though you had doubt.
Yes.
You also claim you heard from another band member.
Yes.
Sadly, after the wifey passed, the defendant went full throttle with his denial. The only silver lining was the loving grandmother, who acted contrary to her son and was present for every milestone. She would tell them that it doesn't matter how their father acts because she knows they're truly her grandkids, and nothing can change that.
When his mother died, he was nowhere in our lives before then. His mom came down for Christmases,
birthdays,
birthday,
everything.
Gave us
and she
everything.
treated us like we was her grandkids.
When she
and
took
she
us-
told us no matter what your daddy say, you guys are always gonna be my grandkids. And that hurts me so much to hear this man sit here in this courtroom and lie to you like that.
Miss Johnson was also in the courtroom because she believed Mr. Medley was her father. She says she grew up all her life doubting her paternity until she asked her mother who her father is, and she gave her Mr. Medley's name. So, can the DNA test resolve the problems this family is having?
Mr. Medley Sr., you are not her father. Okay. Mr. Medley, what are you feeling now?
I don't know. I thought she was my daughter.
Mr. Hill has brought Miss Harris to court because he doesn't believe he is her son, Diamond's father. He says he has petitioned the court for years and was never granted permission for a DNA test, but he has finally established reasonable doubt.
Ms. Harris, you state that Mr. Hill was insecure and jealous when you dated.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you argue that Mr. Hill and your son are the spitting image of one another, and you are convinced he is Tamond's biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Hill, you're paying $50,000 in child support.
Yes, Your Honor.
To Miss Harris, these allegations made no sense from the start because she didn't sleep with anybody else in the time that they were together. However, Mr. Hill refused to believe the lie because she confessed to sleeping with someone else when they briefly broke up once.
Why would he manufacture these doubts?
Because the alleged claim person that I supposed to slept with, he was my friend.
Excuse
my
me,
mother
Your Honor.
knows him and everything.
We broke up at least about 6 times. And
He's a
actually,
lie.
maybe the next to last time we broke up, she got mad at me because I couldn't go on a trip with her.
And when the birth certificate part came, the alleged father claimed that he was too naive and signed the certificate out of best intentions and paid so much money in child support, not knowing if Tamond was truly his.
I paid over $50,000 $1,000 in child support, not knowing what to do, who to talk to, who to lead me and guide me in that right direction, telling me, don't sign the birth until, since you have these doubts, don't tell, you need to find out if this is really your
These
child.
doubts just came. You never had doubts.
Different
You are
occasions.
amazed, happy because this was your first child.
Up next, Miss Harris's mother takes the witness stand next and angrily asks Mr. Hill if he's crazy. She says it's laughable that Mr. Hill is doubting Tamond's paternity when the kid looks exactly like him. She says she knows for sure her daughter did not cheat at that time, and Tamond is surely Mr. Hill's son.
You need to be ashamed of yourself. Are you blind, Chris? Are you blind?
I'm not blind.
Do
I
you
have two
see
other
him,
kids
Chris?
that look exactly like
Do
me.
you see him, Chris?
Well, your daughter shouldn't have
Your
been sleeping
other
with somebody
children do
else
not
telling me
look
what
like
to
you.
do.
You need to have them on paternity court back in front of this judge, because he looks like you, they don't.
Tamond's grandmother testified all she wanted was for Mr. Hill to have a relationship with his son. Judge Lauren talks to Tamond next, who says he knows Mr. Hill as his father, and he has also regularly paid child support, but he has played no active role in his life, and he wishes he was more present.
He won't even come and spend any time with his son. We don't want to beat you up like you used to get beat up. We don't want to beat you up. All we ask you to do is spend some time with your son. So, you know.
And I know this is hard for you to listen to. What has this been like? Did you grow up with the understanding that Mr. Hill was your father, your biological father?
Tamond told the court that Mr. Harris used to send him angry messages about the money, demanding a DNA test every once in a while. Mr. Hill also says if Tamond is proven to not be his, he will fight to take back his child support payments in court. So, could the DNA test resolve this family's dilemma?
Mr. Hill, you are his father.
Can I say something, Your Honor? Can I say
I
something?
think you
Your Honor?
owe my son an apology.
Excuse me. That's exactly what I'm finna do. Tomorrow, I apologize for not being in your life, not doing what I needed to do.
Miss Jacobs brought Mr. Walker to court because she believes he is her biological father, but feels hurt because he abandoned her immediately after her 14th birthday. Mr. Walker says he heard a very damning conversation between his wife and her family, which cast paternity doubts, due to which he left.
On her 14th birthday, Your Honor, we were outside celebrating with 4th of July. I heard an argument inside the house. So I go in to see what's going on, and my ex-wife, her mother, and her sister was in there, and she was screaming at her mother like she was drinking, so she was being belligerent and stuff. She's like, well, you know there's a chance they're not his kids, and I don't know what to do.
Miss Jacobs says she had no idea all of this had happened and felt like her father had walked out on her for no reason. She says she had to be placed in foster care after her father left. Mr. Walker moved to another state, and she lost all contact with him for several years.
Why would you do it now, 14 years later, at her party, when we're supposed to be having a good time with her birthday, and you wait?
What happens at that point? The relationship ended. You ended the relationship.
That's correct.
Miss Jacobs says she felt really abandoned and purposefully got pregnant at 16 so she could be emancipated. Mr. Walker says he had no idea all of this was happening because he had kicked his wife out after the paternity mess came to light, and family members told him they often overheard his wife cheating in his absence.
It was really hard. I actually ended up getting pregnant when I was 16 just to be emancipated.
So you got pregnant on purpose?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's obvious that you were looking for the family you didn't have.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Walker, you had no idea your daughter was going through all of this?
No, Your Honor.
Miss Jacobs says she learned the truth when she was about to give birth to her daughter at the age of 17. She wanted her father there, but her mother told her there was no need for it, as he probably isn't even her biological father. Miss Jacobs says she also saw her mother cheating when she was young.
When I was 16, I told my mother that I didn't want to be around anymore, that I wanted my dad to come down for my daughter's birth, well, her birth. I had her when I was 17. And when my mom found out, she was like, I don't know why you would want him to be there. He's not your real father anyways. That means he's not her grandfather. That's when I looked at her. I kept her out of the birthing room when I gave birth to my daughter.
Miss Jacobs says she remembers the incident vividly because the person she cheated with was her father's relative. She relayed whatever she had seen to her father, who confronted his wife about it. She denied everything by saying Miss Jacobs was making up stories. Mr. Walker said a young kid is incapable of doing that.
He confronted her. She told him that I was lying, I was making up stories. My dad looked at her and was like, I don't understand how you think a 5-year-old has the time to sit around and make up stories about adult content.
Mr. Walker says that when he took his wife to court for the divorce, all he asked for was the kids. His wife wanted the property and the house. He says he fought for the kids for years and had paperwork to back that up, but the court always favored his ex-wife because she accused Mr. Walker of being a drug addict.
The only thing she wanted in the divorce was the property and the contents of the house. And I said, give me my kids, you can have everything, anything you want. I brought the divorce papers with me to back that up as evidence. I've done nothing but fight for these kids, Your Honor. I love my children. My children are my world.
He said he showed all this paperwork to his daughter when they reunited. Miss Jacobs says she feels terrible because she said many hurtful things to her father when they first met again due to her mother's brainwashing. So, will the DNA results give this father-daughter duo their happy ending?
You are Aisha's father.
I love you.
I hope that now that you have the truth.
Miss Ellis brought Mr. Coger to court because she says they had a brief fling, after which she became pregnant. Mr. Coger says he can't be the father of the baby because he is sure they did not have intercourse. Judge Lauren is very confused by this and asks him to explain the situation.
Ms. Ellis, you claim you had a brief fling with the defendant 3 years ago. Soon after, you ended up pregnant, and now you hope to prove that he fathered your 3-year-old son, Zamarian.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Coger says he and Miss Ellis were friends and would often talk on the phone. He says one time they were hanging out when things started heating up and they decided to take it to the bedroom. However, before the act could begin, Miss Ellis expressed that she had vaginal discomfort and did not want to have sex.
When we met, we were cool, we would talk on the phone, laugh it up, stuff like that. So it came to the point where she wanted to come over and stuff like that. So she would come over, we would hang out. Over the next course of time, we ended up being home alone. There's nothing wrong with her, there was nothing wrong with me. We both was attracted to each other and came about where, hey, might want to go upstairs and, fool around, mess around or whatever.
Miss Ellis says that's not how things happened. They began having sex despite discomfort, but later on, it began hurting too much, so she told him to stop, and he did. She says this goes to show that he could be the father of her baby. Judge Lauren says both parties believe something different happened.
We were alone. We was watching a movie at the time. We was eating, chilling or whatever. And then, we started, talking about sexual stuff or whatever. We went upstairs. As he said, he got undressed, I got undressed. And I was like, okay, it hurts. And he was like, you want me to stop? So I was like, no, you can keep going or whatever. So he kept going. And so I was like, okay, now it's starting to hurt a little too bad now. Can you stop or whatever?
Judge Lauren asks Miss Ellis how she knew she was pregnant. She said she was out shopping with her mother when she blacked out. She was rushed to the hospital where some routine tests were done, and the nurse came back with the results and told her that she was pregnant. Miss Ellis was in shock and couldn't believe the nurse.
So we're walking to a shopping mall or whatever, and they say, I passed out. And I had to be rushed to the hospital. I woke up, I'm in the hospital room, I'm not knowing, what's going on, what to do. And so a nurse came in the room and she was like, okay, you had passed out, we feel like you had a heat stroke, so we're gonna give you some fluids and everything, draw some blood to see what happened.
Mr. Coger said he found out about the pregnancy through Facebook. Miss Ellis had posted pictures of herself pregnant, and he messaged her to ask if there was any chance the baby could be his. Miss Ellis said she didn't want any drama as she was seeing someone else at the time, so she said no.
I had only told him and my mother, those were the only two people that knew I was pregnant. Nobody else in my family knew. He didn't know. Nobody knew I was pregnant. But
Mr. Coger didn't even know?
No.
So, Mr. Coger, how did you find out about the pregnancy?
I found out via Facebook.
Oh.
Facebook.
And I have my ultrasound picture.
Miss Ellis says she also had unprotected sex with someone else the week before she slept with Mr. Coger. She says she didn't want him involved as her boyfriend at the time wanted to take the baby's responsibility. Judge Lauren says the biological father still has the right to know. So, what are the DNA tests going to say?
You are Zamarian's father. Is your memory coming back now?
Not at all. Not at all, Your Honor.
Miss Wilson and Mr. Woody come to court to establish the paternity of their 2-month-old son, as Mr. Woody loves the kid and wants him to be his, but he has doubts, as Miss Wilson has said she also slept with someone else at the time of conception. Mr. Woody even gave the child his own name.
Mr. Woody, you are here today desperate to learn if you are the biological father of the defendant's son.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Ms. Wilson, you confess you slept with another man at the time of conception, though you honestly can't be sure who fathered your child, hoping today's results will give you that answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Woody says he was excited about the baby because he already has a young daughter he really loves, but wants to have a son now too. After hearing that he could be a father again, he was ecstatic to learn that he had a son he could teach baseball and basketball to and do father-son bonding with.
I have a 3-year-old daughter already, so when I found out I was having a son, I was excited because what man doesn't want to have a junior, you know? So I got plans made, you know, I'm ready to go play baseball and basketball with them and, you know, all the stuff a father's supposed to do with his son. So I'm just ready, so I'm ready to be a father to a boy now.
Mr. Woody says he has come to really love the child and has developed an excellent relationship with him. And now he's scared that he might not be his. This comes from the fact that he and Miss Wilson were not in a relationship when they slept together. Judge Lauren remarks that it's easy to fall in love with a beautiful baby.
So you love the baby?
Yes, I thought that was it, you know, but come to find out, you know, I have my doubts about if he's mine or not.
Because you and Ms. Wilson are not in a relationship, you know that there is a strong possibility
Yes.
that this child could be someone else's.
Yes.
Miss Wilson contacted Mr. Woody on Facebook because there was no other way to contact him. She says she took various home pregnancy tests and they all came back negative. She did a blood test, which soon came back positive. Miss Wilson says she was very shocked as she didn't feel ready to have a baby.
I was walking down the street with my friend. We were drunk and we were going up to the store. He was in an apartment complex, with his daughter in a stroller, and he said, "You're cute." And I was like, "Oh, you're cute too." So we walked to the store and we walked back to my friend's house. We had intercourse.
Okay.
Mr. Woody says his girlfriend was the one responding to Miss Wilson's texts, so he didn't even know for some time that she was pregnant. He then shows Judge Lauren some text messages from Miss Wilson, which indicate she was threatening to take him to court when breaking the pregnancy news.
I have a couple of pieces of evidence, and I got the picture of me and my son, and I have the messages from Facebook.
I'm pregnant, so I hope you know we're getting a DNA test when the baby's born, and I'm hitting you up with this child support. I'll see you in court.
As read.
That's your first? You're
Hello.
gonna be a father?
Hello.
Way harsh, Miss Wilson.
Miss Wilson says she hasn't even told the other guy about the pregnancy because she had sex with Mr. Woody first. Judge Lauren says the order of intercourse doesn't matter as long as both events occurred in the period of conception. So, can the DNA test clear up this confusion?
Mr. Woody, you are not his father.
What?
Jerome, will you please have her sit down?
Conversation is this? I know how to push his buttons. I know how to make him mad. So that's what I was saying.
This is not button pushing, this is bomb dropping. Do you also admit, Ms. Grant, basically defrauding him, basically saying this is your child when you knew for certain that it was not his child? Did you do that?
Mr. Harrison is suing Miss Grant for paternity fraud and requests the removal of his name from the acknowledgement of paternity document for their 4-year-old daughter, Aaliyah Harrison. He believes he signed the document under deceptive conditions. Miss Grant admits to lying about an ongoing affair, but insists that Mr. Harrison is indeed Aaliyah's biological father. How evil is that?
I signed my acknowledgement for paternity for my daughter. I've had several people come to me through Facebook and through text messaging on my phone saying that, Aaliyah is not your daughter. Miss Grant is saying she is not your daughter. Apparently it's through several of her friends, that
They're
maybe
not any
she's
kind
had...
of friends of mine, Your Honor, if they're going around talking behind my back.
Mr. Harrison reveals that Miss Grant had a 15-year affair with someone else, and he has been with her for only 8 years. This affair predates their relationship. Despite being together for 8 years and having a previous child together, he alleges that she has been unfaithful throughout their entire relationship, including around the time of their first child's birth.
I was bringing home like a dryer or something like that and asked her to help me out bringing it in, and she wasn't helping me the way I needed to be helped getting it through the door, and I started getting maybe a little bit upset. Just trying to bring a big washer and I needed help guiding it through. She got upset and she said, I just don't want to do this anymore.
I didn't want to have to keep lying to him, Your Honor.
Miss Grant admitted to a 15-year relationship with a friend, sometimes sexual, while with Mr. Harrison. Despite telling the friend about her intentions with Mr. Harrison, she continued the relationship. When questioned by the judge on how she maintained it, Miss Grant confessed to constant lying.
Pull this off.
Lies.
Non-stop, the entire time. Absolutely not. I would never cheat on you.
Ms. Grant, Mr. Harrison is suing you.
Yes, ma'am.
For paternity fraud.
Yes, ma'am.
Because he says he signed the acknowledgement of paternity under false pretenses because he feels like you misled him.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison challenges Miss Grant on her credibility, referencing her confession about their relationship's deceit. In her defense, Miss Grant states she gave Mr. Harrison a choice to stay or leave after her admission. Despite relationship issues, Mr. Harrison wants to remain present for their kids.
When I came clean, I gave you the option whether or not you wanted to go ahead and call it quits for good, forever.
Yes, you're right.
Or if you wanted to go ahead and, lay it out all out.
Because I'm not
on
a
the line.
deadbeat and
Because
actually
he's
want to be
cheated on
around
me
my
too.
children if they're mine. I'm not going to
cheated on
sit
me
there.
too.
I told her time and time again, I said, I don't care how bad at times our relationship is. Let's wait until the kids get older.
Miss Grant accuses Mr. Harrison of cheating with ring rats due to his indie pro wrestling career. Their relationship is clearly troubled. Despite the turmoil, the main concern is the paternity of their young child. Mr. Harrison feels deceived, leading to accusations of paternity fraud. Miss Grant admits to lying about being with others.
I did lie. I admit to lying about being.
So how am I to know?
With
How am I to
somebody else
know?
here and there.
How am I
So
to
do you also admit, Ms. Grant, basically defrauding him, basically saying this is your child when you knew for certain that it was not his child? Did you do that?
No, ma'am. I knew 100% that she was his child because she was conceived during a blizzard.
Miss Grant confirms Aaliyah's birth date as September 15th, 2010. Based on this, Judge Lake calculates the conception dates to be between December 19th and December 27th. Miss Grant recalls a significant blizzard during this time and claims the other potential father took off because he doesn't like the cold. The parents await the DNA results to know the truth.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Harrison, you are her father.
I told you.
I'm happy.
Good.
Miss Brown is suing her mom, Miss Brown Overstreet, for $2,200. She's upset because she doesn't know who her real dad is. The court might order a test to find it out. Miss Brown Overstreet hopes the man in court is the dad. When asked, Miss Brown said suing her mom feels better than how she felt growing up.
We want the truth in this courtroom.
My mom she wasn't there as much as she should have been there. I asked her on several occasions, do you know who my father could be? My mama just said, I don't know, I don't know. Every time I asked, it was, I don't know, I don't know. She gave me, actually I have a list of men. It's about 6 or 7 guys.
Shantia Brown is in court because she doesn't know who her dad is. Clifton Smith might be her father, but they haven't tested him yet. Shantia was in foster care multiple times and was separated from her siblings. Later, her grandma took care of them. What evil parents she had.
My grandmother got us back. She got sick. I missed 3 months of school, got kicked out. I was in alternative school. I got kicked out because my grandma got sick and I had to take care of her.
And so what level of school did you finish, hon?
9th grade.
You went to the 9th grade?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you had to take care of your grandmother?
Yes, ma'am, and take care of my brothers.
When Shantia was around 6 or 7, her older brother, who was 3 years her elder, taught her basic life skills like riding a bike, tying shoes, and spelling. She acknowledges that her mother did some things for her, but feels that money cannot replace or erase past memories. Shantia felt tormented growing up without her father.
I had my oldest brother. He was about 3 years older than me. He taught me how to ride a bike. He taught me how to tie my shoe, how to spell. He taught me basically everything I know. And I admit she did a little of some of what she was supposed to, but I guess she felt that giving me money erased all the past memories that I had because of her.
When Shantia was 18, she was told that Mr. Smith might be her father. She was upset, questioning why he was trying to be a part of her life only now and why her mother hadn't mentioned him before. She was angry at both her mother and Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith then entered the courtroom.
We go back a long time. So when I called her, she was like that she was trying to find the father of our daughter. I said, wouldn't it be funny if I was the father? And she was like, oh yeah, I forgot all about you. I'm like, she forgot all about me. Then I was adding up the days. If I have a child out there, I want to know. So when I pulled up, I get out the car and my cousin pointed her out, so I was looking at her.
Mr. Smith expressed regret for not being present in Shantia's life. He was emotional, acknowledging that it troubled him to hear about the hardships she faced growing up without him. He believes no child should grow up without a parent. Reflecting on their past, Mr. Smith said he and Miss Brown had a fling during one summer.
And she had a boyfriend at the time. You know, we got together, it was more than once, and I went back home for the summer. I came back for the winter vacation, and I saw her, and I'm like, wow, you look a little fat there. She says to me, I ain't fat, I'm pregnant. Next thing came out my mouth, well, who's the father? She said, don't worry about it, it ain't you.
Mr. Smith presented a photo as evidence, which turned out to be of his genitalia. This revelation shocked the courtroom, leading to laughter. The reason for the photo was to show an injury. Mr. Smith voiced concerns that, due to this injury, he might be unable to have children. The DNA result can reveal if what he says is the truth.
Mr. Smith, you are not Shantia's father. Miss Brown, you okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
How about you, Mr. Smith? I know you had hopes.
So I still love her. It's cool. She's still my baby, right? You know I love you.
Mr. and Miss Elston previously appeared in court regarding the paternity of their 2-year-old Caeson. Elston admitted to having relations with her friend's boyfriend, even revealing a threesome event on Valentine's Day. Mr. Elston was concerned because Caeson didn't resemble him. The results showed he was not Carson's father. Now, they're back concerning the paternity of their newborn, Caeson.
Ladarian moved out shortly after Caeson was born. He's been having paternity issues since we found out Carson was not his. He started saying that this baby doesn't look like me, he's not mine, and questions about the conception, and he wants to leave his family all of a sudden.
Wow, it has really taken a turn for the worse.
Mr. Elston doubts he's the father of Caeson due to the child's resemblance to Carson, another child he learned wasn't biologically his. The similar names, both decided by Miss Elston and her friend, intensify his doubts, triggering painful memories from their prior court appearance regarding Carson's paternity.
I mean, I don't have a bond with him, and I don't feel like he's mine. They look alike to me, so they must have the same father. And the baby names are, identical, and it's something here that she's not telling me, so.
We agreed on the name. I tried changing it plenty of times.
No, Your Honor.
He told me he didn't want to change it.
No, her friend chose the name, Your Honor.
The truth is, even the name triggers you.
Yes.
During Mr. Elston's work hours, Miss Elston had her ex pick her up, but fearing Mr. Elston's reaction due to past infidelity issues, she lied and said a friend got her. Their tensions escalated during her pregnancy, leading her to text him in anger, asserting that these children are not his. What an evil thing to do as a parent.
He already had, issues from the past of me cheating and all this stuff. So I didn't tell him, it was my ex because I didn't want him thinking I was sleeping with him or anything. I told him, I was like, well, that was not my cousin that took me. It was a friend. And he asked who, and I told him who it was, and I was honest about it. I just did not want no problems in our relationship at that point.
So you felt like you were just being honest?
Yeah.
Mr. Elston presented a text where Miss Elston stated, Caeson is not yours anyway. I blanked your homeboy. Mr. Elston responded, calling her derogatory names. Miss Elston then threatened to put him on child support due to their marriage, adding that marriage was her only reason. Judge Lake expressed concern about the harmful nature of their exchanges, highlighting their toxicity.
What kind of conversation is this?
I know how to push his buttons. I know how to make him mad. So that's what I was saying.
This is not button pushing, this is bomb dropping.
Yeah.
These exchanges are designed to destroy. You already said you had one child that was his, came back not his. Now you doing this again?
Yes.
Mr. Elston stated that a female friend informed him that Miss Elston cheated. Miss Elston said that the friend wants to break them up. The friend, Miss Stanfield, was then brought into the courtroom to testify directly. Was he able to clear the confusion, or will the DNA result be the only way to find out the true answers?
Mr. Elston, you are the father. Caeson is your little boy.
But I still treat Carson like he's mine too, so I don't show him no different attention.
But you're doing an amazing job, and thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson denies being the biological father of Miss Kirby's 11-month-old son, Cayden. He asserts that Miss Kirby's claims are affecting his current relationship. Miss Kirby insists that Cayden was conceived during her relationship with Mr. Johnson and urges him to take responsibility, especially due to the child's health concerns. They argue about the impact on Mr. Johnson's current relationship.
She's trying to pin a child on me that ain't mine, and she's causing problems in my current relationship.
How am I causing issues in your current relationship when you just called to me yesterday?
I'm not trying to keep up with you. I just wanted to know, is this really happening?
So you think she's trying to pin a baby on you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you have doubt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson insists he wouldn't abandon a child due to his past, but firmly believes Cayden isn't his son, based on appearances. Miss Kirby disputes this, noting their physical similarities. Their relationship started at work, leading to an intimate moment in a car during a blackout.
During the blackout, we decided to go to the store. So we in my car, driving to the store, Charmaine started talking sexual.
Why would I talk sexual to you when I'm dealing with someone?
Wait, what was she saying? I think I want to know.
Mr. Johnson and Miss Kirby's relationship began at work, quickly leading to a sexual relationship. Despite its casual nature, Johnson claims Kirby admitted to being intimate with another man around the same time, raising doubts about Cayden's paternity. Are his doubts correct?
During the time, she already told me, Your Honor, that she was having sex with another guy.
A month before you and a month after you, sir.
During the time we were having sex.
You're saying she told you I'm also having a sexual relationship with somebody else?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did she say?
She was like, well, I'm single, but I'm having sex with this dude also.
At a party, Mr. Johnson saw a post by Miss Kirby on social media about not needing help with her child. Curious, he messaged her asking if she was pregnant and if the child was his. Initially, she denied he was the father, but upon his visit to her house, she changed their story, affirming he was the father. What an evil thing to do!
She says, no, you're not the father.
Because I didn't want to deal with him at the time.
So why'd you go to her house after that?
Because I wanted to be clear, am I the father of this baby?
Oh, you were taking it one step further because, as you stated in your earlier testimony, you're not going to play around if you think a child is your child.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Kirby claims Mr. Johnson hasn't done anything for Cayden, while he counters that she initially told him he wasn't the father. Kirby admits she told him so because she believed Johnson wouldn't take responsibility. When questioned by Judge Lake, Kirby reveals she informed another man about her pregnancy too.
I did the calculations. We had sex July 10th, and this the amount of time that I could see Cayden.
So you looked at the conception window?
Yes, ma'am.
And you determined that was during the time when you were sexually active with Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you also were in a sexual relationship with the other man?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson reveals he hasn't developed any relationship with Cayden. Miss Kirby admits she video chatted Mr. Johnson to inform him of Cayden's needs, testing him to see his reaction. Miss Kirby insists Mr. Johnson is Cayden's father, while Mr. Johnson denies any paternal connection to the child. Looks like the DNA results will tell us what we need to know.
It has been determined by this court. Mr. Johnson, you are the father. Congratulations are in order again. That's your beautiful little boy. Sure, and until she was sure, she led him to the water and let him keep drinking. This is clear as day from this seat. And so at this point, all we have left to get down to the bottom of this.
But you don't trust him as far as you can throw him, and you don't trust her.
I wouldn't trust him in my face, though. When he was messing with her, he was messing with me.
Right, and now she pregnant. This might be his baby.
Mr. McRae believes he's the father of Miss Moore's daughter, Demiracle. He claims Miss Moore made him believe this for 10 months before telling him he isn't the father. Emotionally, he hasn't seen Demiracle in over a year and claims she's all he thinks about, affecting his personal relationships.
That's my world right now. That's all I've been thinking about. I can't have a good relationship with a female because that's all I think about. My focus is on her. She's so gorgeous.
Yes, she is.
And the more I look at her, she looks like me.
I don't think so.
Mr. McRae believed he was in a committed relationship with Miss Moore for 4 years after they met on Facebook. The first 2 years went well, but then issues arose. Miss Moore accused him of cheating, and she felt controlled by Mr. McRae. He questioned her whereabouts, especially on one occasion when she worked late, making her feel suffocated.
And we met on Facebook. We decided to hook up.
First 2 years, it was good and everything. Then after that, it started getting bad and all that other stuff, catching, cheating, and all that other stuff. I just had to let it go because last few years, he tried to be a father figure to me, telling me what I should and should not do. I cannot go here, I cannot go there. And like one night I worked late and he was like, where was you at?
During their 4-year relationship, Miss Moore claims they had sex only 3 or 4 times. In this brutal fight, Mr. McRae disagrees with Miss Moore's claim. He felt deeply connected during her pregnancy, even experiencing sympathetic symptoms. He mentioned shared food cravings, like stinking peanut butter. Mr. McRae confirms he was so invested that he signed the birth certificate.
You are the legal father listed on this birth certificate.
Yes, Your Honor.
At the time you signed this, you had no doubt you were the biological father?
I had no doubt.
So, Ms. Moore, why is his name listed as the legal father on her birth certificate if you say you knew he was not the biological father?
Because I was drugged up in the hospital, he had signed the papers.
Miss Moore explains that she allowed Mr. McRae at the hospital during the birth and let him sign the birth certificate because she was drugged and couldn't make decisions. Her husband couldn't attend due to personal issues. She suggests Mr. McRae wouldn't have been there if her husband had been present. They were cohabitating at the time.
Now, if this is not your husband, you weren't married to him, and you say you didn't believe he was the biological father of this child, he said he wasn't leaving unless a body bag took him out or security.
Right.
Well, then why wouldn't you just call security?
Because I was already drugged up. They had with epidural in me and everything, so I wouldn't be able to remember anything because I was in so much pain.
Miss Moore explained that she had informed Mr. McRae that DeMiracle wasn't his child. Despite this, he continued to be present during his bond with the child. He gained access to DeMiracle through Miss Moore's grandmother. Mr. McRae's efforts to be proved as the father were in vain. The DNA result will reveal if Miss Moore's suspicions were right.
The biological father is Mr. Moore. He is the biological father. Can you accept that?
I can accept it. It hurts.
I know.
I gotta move on. She's still pretty to me.
Of course she is.
Because I was in foster care, I didn't know my father. I don't even know my dad. He walked in this room right now. And for her to be confused and not knowing who her dad is.
Miss Henderson accuses Mr. Goodson of neglecting their 4-year-old daughter. Both seek paternity tests. Mr. Goodson alleges Miss Henderson's infidelity and claims she was involved with both him and his cousin around the same time. Miss Henderson denies this, mentioning meeting his cousin on a chat line. Will this lead the couple towards a brutal fight?
I met his cousin on the chat line. So far, when we met on the chat line, I was just looking for friends, you know, on a regular basis, and smoke and drink. So one day he came to pick me up, a white truck, bumping music all loud or whatnot, or whatever. He in the back car, like looking at me like, ooh, he wanted me or whatever.
In a court setting, Miss Henderson recalls a time when Mr. Goodson allegedly stole his mother's car to see her, which he laughs off. The two recount their tumultuous relationship and how it began, including Mr. Goodson's involvement with her after his cousin. Their relationship intensifies, leading them to become sexually involved, especially after Mr. Goodson's release from jail.
Became involved sexually.
Sexually. After he got out of jail stealing the car, he called me like, can I come see you or whatnot? And I'm like, yeah. He came to see me again, but this time it was with his Caucasian homeboy and his son. And so I hopped in the van with them. We went to their house.
Did you check the registration?
No.
Miss Henderson and Mr. Goodson argue about their past relationship. Mr. Goodson questions if she had relations with both him and his cousin, which she denies. Their unprotected sexual relationship lasted a year, and they broke up after he allegedly informed her about being with another woman. Mr. Goodson suggests he wasn't aware they were exclusive.
I just feel like, you know what I'm saying, at the time, she was a little bit older than me or whatever, so I liked it that she was older.
And
she was
about his age, first of all.
Listen, I never lied about the age.
Oh my God.
But like I was saying, she had a little bit of money. I didn't have no money. I couldn't work at the time. I was a little bit younger than her. So you know what I'm saying, the money what kind of got me into liking her.
Judge Lake asks for clarification about the relationship between Mr. Thomas and Miss Henderson. Mr. Thompson describes their interaction as a one-night stand after a possible night of drinking. Judge Lake confirms that either Mr. Thompson or his cousin, Mr. Goodson, could be the potential father based on the circumstances presented.
It's like a one-night thing. You know how it be some nights you might get drunk, be with somebody, might turn you on, just happen.
Right. Okay, so it was a one-night stand.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
either you or your cousin, Mr. Goodson, is the father.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas. You may have a seat.
While in a relationship, there were instances of mutual attempts to incite jealousy. One day, after calling a man on her phone, the man claimed the child as his own, raising doubts for the caller. This claim added to the ongoing games of jealousy and mistrust. When the child was born, a DNA test was requested.
Basically, she'd call guys in my face or whatever, and I used to call guys, I used to call girls in her face, like, to make each other mad or whatever. So one day, I got in her phone one day, I called this dude in her phone, and then the dude answered the phone, he was like, we had changed some words with each other. And then he was like, yeah, this my son.
Miss Tori denies cheating on Mr. Goodson and reveals a tattoo of his name on her neck as proof. In response, Goodson mentions he also has her name tattooed on him. The trust issues continue, and the courtroom becomes intense as allegations arise about potential infidelities and another pregnancy. Only the DNA result can reveal the truth.
Mr. Goodson, you are the father.
Yeah.
Okay. Whoa. I don't think I have to say much because your mother has said it all. Mr. Goodson, I don't know if you think this is a joke, what it means to be a man and a father.
Miss Wyatt and Mr. Roberts are in court over the paternity of their daughter, London. Married after 2 months, their relationship is strained due to Mr. Roberts suspecting Miss Wyatt's ex might be the father. Miss Wyatt believes Mr. Roberts is using this doubt to hide his infidelity. They're considering divorce.
Our marriage is on the verge of divorce right now. First of all, he's denying our daughter, and I think it's just to cover up the fact that he's, does a lot of cheating. Like, for instance, one time I went to the store, and a neighbor, he's 17 years old, and he came to the car and was like, hey, and Greg just got upset for nothing. He's just so insecure and so jealous.
Miss Wyatt and Mr. Roberts are brutally arguing over the involvement of exes in their relationship. Mr. Roberts claims that every time they argue, Miss Wyatt has one of her exes come over. Miss Wyatt retorts that she doesn't invite them arbitrarily and accuses Mr. Roberts of retreating to his family and letting them see him cheat on her.
I've never, ever just called the ex over just to call an ex over. Like, if we get into an argument and he either leaves or I make him go home to his mom, which he loves to do because he always runs back to them, telling them stuff about me. Matter of fact, his mom and his sisters, they all watch him cheat on me.
In court, Miss Wyatt revealed she recently lost a baby. She needed to visit her doctor, and with a flat tire, she relied on 2 exes for assistance, as Mr. Roberts was unavailable and her family was distant. She emphasized their respect for Mr. Roberts. Tensions escalate in the discussion.
Your Honor, first of all, the reason why I went to the hospital is I was pregnant. So the hospital, they pretty much, the person that was caring for me, the doctor that was caring for me so that she can take care of me. He couldn't fix the tire. Family don't like us, so I had to call whoever else I had to call. I'm in Florida. My family is in California.
In court, an incident arose where Mr. Roberts' best friend received texts from Miss Wyatt. She admits to texting, aiming to prove a point, as Mr. Roberts had online dating profiles, and she was being contacted by other women who claimed to be dating her husband. Tensions continue to heighten.
Throughout our marriage, he had online profiles. I've had women contact me saying, are you married to him? Because that's my boyfriend. I'm like, we're married. How is that your boyfriend? I don't know any other way. Honestly, I don't know any other way to let him know how I feel. So I tried to get him back.
Miss Wyatt expresses her frustration, admitting to creating online profiles as a way to move on from Mr. Roberts if he doesn't change. She feels like she's raising her husband alongside their children. Mr. Roberts counters, accusing her of not being a real woman and pointing out her tendency to throw him out frequently.
What man
you feel me, gonna be always the man if every time a problem go down, you throws him out like almost every week.
Your Honor,
like
you
every
get thrown out every week?
It's just about.
Everything.
How is he with your daughter?
I don't know. He's okay. He treats all the kids like he doesn't buy any Pampers, any wipes. I have to do it all.
Mr. Roberts reflects on his past, drawing parallels between his current relationship with Miss Wyatt and his childhood experiences. He recalls his parents splitting up when he was in 5th grade and the subsequent challenges, including being thrown out by his mother at 15 and turning to the streets and drug dealing to help with bills. Does the DNA result reunite them?
Mr. Roberts, you are her father. Exactly. Are you happy?
Exactly. I am.
Are you ready to get in the game? And I'm not talking about football.
Yes.
Man, for that. I'm talking about getting in the game.
We'll see.
Of trying to save your family. I think it's obvious Miss Wyatt loves you.
Mr. Conway denies being the father of 20-year-old Trayvon Cruz and owes $53,000 in back child support, resulting in numerous arrests. Miss Cruz insists Mr. Conway is Trayvon's father and believes he is avoiding child support payments. Conway highlights complications from multiple child support orders.
Well, I'm paying child support in Nebraska, but he has 2 orders. 1 order in Nebraska, 1 order in Missouri. I didn't know nothing about exactly where they was in 2005 until I got arrested.
And you've never hired an attorney to deal with this issue?
Ma'am, this is the problem. If I had to get an attorney, I had to get an attorney from Missouri, but I live in Nebraska.
In this brutal fight between them, Miss Cruz claims Mr. Conway hasn't contributed to their son's upbringing. Conway alleges payments made in Nebraska, but Miss Cruz refutes this. When she inquired, Nebraska had no record of such payments. Despite Conway's claims, Miss Cruz says she sporadically received minimal amounts, like $29 or even $3.
This guy's calling me, harassing me, saying they're taking $700 and something out of my check. I said, I'm not receiving nothing. I'm not receiving no aid for the state or anything. So why am I not getting my money? I want my money if he's paying it.
So you haven't received any support?
It's impossible.
Off and on, $29.
Impossible, Your Honor.
$29 here, there's some $3 here. He ain't get nothing.
Mr. Conway alleges that in the hospital, he was advised not to sign the birth certificate. Miss Cruz, refuting this, says he wasn't present when the document was provided. Although he claims he was present during her C-section, she emphasizes that by the time of the birth certificate's arrival, he had left.
In the hospital room, the nurse came in, she told me not to sign the birth certificate.
Wow.
Tell me I'm lying, TT.
You lying.
Is that true?
You lying.
Come on,
Your Honor.
Well, why isn't he on this birth certificate?
I'm not on the birth
Because
certificate.
he was missing in action.
I was at the hospital when you was born. You had a C-section. I was there.
Exactly. You was there, but you was missing in action. You wasn't there when the...
Come on, I was there when you had to see. I was right in the room with him when he came out.
Mr. Conway points out that Miss Cruz informed him of the pregnancy in July, and then she had the baby on January 17th. By counting the months, he questions if there was enough time for a full-term pregnancy. Miss Cruz confirms Trayvon was full-term, suggesting that Conway's absence wasn't as long as he claims. Conway, however, believes the timeline doesn't match up for him to be the father.
Well, even if it was 6 or 7 months, you're saying it's not enough time.
Not enough time.
Was Trayvon a full-term baby?
Yes, he was a full-term.
He came back pregnant.
And Your Honor, I had a job, so I can't just go somewhere in 8 or 9 months and then come back.
So you're saying you weren't gone that long?
No.
Oh,
you know,
every weekend.
he got selective.
Come on.
He got selective memory.
Trayvon confirms that growing up, he knew Mr. Conway was his alleged father, even though there was no name on his birth certificate. He recalls instances of being with Conway, such as being taken to a strip club by him. The narrative depicts conflicting stories that only the DNA result may justify.
Mr. Conway, you are his father.
That's what I'm talking about. Get your life together. You ain't had no business question mine.
Yeah, I question it. I question it because he questioned
We don't
it.
want nothing from him.
Something, Your Honor.
What would you like to say, Mr.?
I accept your apology, but honestly, after 20 years, it's so embarrassing how you just talked about my mom.